the Mahabharata of Krishna-Dwaipayana Vyasa. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit text by Pratap Chandra Roy C.I.E. This free ebook has been downloaded from holybooks.com. Vana Parva. Section 146, Tirtha. Yatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, O repressor of foes, hearing these words of the intelligent monkey chief, the heroic Bhima answered, Who art thou? And why also hast thou assumed the shape of a monkey? It is a Kshatriya, one of a race next to the Brahmanas, that asketh thee. And he belongeth to the Kuru race and the lunar stock, and was born by Kunti in her womb, and is one of the sons of Pandu, and is the offspring of the wind god, and is known by the name of Bhimsena. Hearing these words of the Kuru hero, Hanuman smiled, and that son of the wind god, Hanuman, spake unto that offspring of the wind god, Bhimsena, saying, I am a monkey, I will not allow thee the passage thou desirest. Better desist and go back. Do thou not meet with destruction. At this Bhimsena replied, Destruction at anything else do I not ask thee about, O monkey. Do thou give me passage. Arise. Do not come by grief at my hands. Hanuman said, I have no strength to rise, I am suffering from illness. If go thou must, do thou go by overleaping me. Bhima said, The Supreme Soul void of the properties pervadeth the body all over. Him knowable alone by knowledge, I cannot disregard. And therefore, will I not overleap thee. If I had not known him from whom become manifest all creatures, I would have leapt over thee and also the mountain, even as Hanuman had bounded over the ocean. Thereupon Hanuman said, Who is that Hanuman, who had bounded over the ocean? I ask thee, O best of men, relate if thou canst. Bhima replied, He is even my brother, excellent with every perfection, and endued with intelligence and strength both of mind and body. And he is the illustrious chief of monkeys, renowned in the Ramayana. And for Rama's queen, that king of the monkeys even with one leap crossed the ocean extending over 100 yojanas. That mighty one is my brother. I am equal unto him in energy, strength and prowess and also in fight. And able am I to punish thee. So arise. Either give me passage or witness my prowess today. If thou do not listen to my bidding, I shall send thee to the abode of Yam. Vasampayana continued, Then knowing him, Bhima, to be intoxicated with strength, and proud of the might of his arms, Hanuman, slighting him at heart, said the following words, Relent thou, O sinless one. In consequence of age, I have no strength to get up. From pity for me, do thou go, moving aside my tail. Being thus addressed by Hanuman, Bhima, proud of the strength of his arms, took him for one wanting in energy and prowess, and thought within himself, taking fast hold of the tail, Will I send this monkey destitute of energy and prowess, to the region of Yam? Thereat, with a smile he slightingly took hold of the tail with his left hand, but could not move that tail of the mighty monkey. Then with both arms he pulled it, resembling the pole reared in honor of Indra. Still the mighty Bhima could not raise the tail with both his arms. And his eyebrows were contracted up, and his eyes rolled, and his face was contracted into wrinkles, and his body was covered with sweat, and yet he could not raise it. And when after having striven, the illustrious Bhima failed in raising the tail, he approached the side of the monkey, and stood with a bashful countenance. And bowing down, Kunti's son, with joined hands, spake these words, Relent thou, O foremost of monkeys, and forgive me for my harsh words. Art thou a Siddha, or a god, or a Gandharv, or a Guhayaka? I ask thee out of curiosity. Tell me who thou art that hast assumed the shape of monkey, if it be not a secret, O long-armed one, and if I can well hear it. I ask thee as a disciple, and I, O sinless one, seek thy refuge. Thereupon Hanuman said, O repressor of foes, even to the extent of thy curiosity to know me, shall I relate all at length. Listen, O son of Pandu. O lotus-eyed one, I was begotten by the wind god, that life of the world upon the wife of Kesari. I am a monkey, by name Hanuman. All the mighty monkey kings and monkey chiefs used to wait upon that son of the sun, Sugriva, and that son of Sakra, Vali. And, O repressor of foes, a friendship subsisted between me and Sugriva, even as between the wind and fire. And for some cause, Sugriva, driven out by his brother, for a long time dwelt with me at the Hrisyamukh. And it came to pass that the mighty son of Dasharatha, the heroic Rama, who is Vishnu's self in the shape of a human being, took his birth in this world. And in company with his queen and brother, taking his bow, that foremost of bowmen, with the view of compassing his father's welfare, began to reside in the Dandaka forest. And from Janasthana, that mighty Rakshasa monarch, the wicked Ravana, carried away his, Rama's, queen by stratagem and force, deceiving, O sinless one, that foremost of men, through the agency of a Rakshasa, Maricha, who assumed the form of a deer marked with gem-like and golden spots. Thus ends the 146th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 147, Tirtha.Yatra Parva continued. Hanuman said, and after his wife was carried away, that descendant of Raghu, while searching with his brother for his queen, met, on the summit of that mountain, with Sugriva, chief of the monkeys. Then a friendship was contracted between him and the high-souled Raghava. And the latter, having slain Vali, installed Sugriva in the kingdom. And having obtained the kingdom, Sugriva sent forth monkeys by hundreds and by thousands in search of Sita. And, O best of men, I too with innumerable monkeys set out towards the south in quest of Sita, O mighty armed one. Then a mighty vulture Sampati by name, communicated the tidings that Sita was in the abode of Ravana. Thereupon, with the object of securing success unto Rama, I all of a sudden bounded over the main, extending for 100 yojanas. And, O chief of the Bharatas, having by my own prowess crossed the ocean, that abode of sharks and crocodiles, I saw in Ravana's residence the daughter of King Janaka, Sita, like unto the daughter of a celestial. And having interviewed that lady, Vaidehi, Rama's beloved, and burnt the whole of Lanka with its towers and ramparts and gates, and proclaimed my name there, I returned. Hearing everything from me, the lotus-eyed Rama at once ascertained his course of action, and having for the passage of his army constructed a bridge across the deep, crossed it followed by myriads of monkeys. Then by prowess Rama slew those Rakshasas in battle, and also Ravana, the oppressor of the worlds, together with his Rakshasa followers. And having slain the king of the Rakshasas, with his brother, and sons and kindred, he installed in the kingdom in Lanka the Rakshasa chief, Vibhishana, pious, and reverent, and kind to devoted dependents. Then Rama recovered his wife even like the lost Vedic revelation. Then Raghu's son, Rama, with his devoted wife, returned to his own city, Ayodhya, inaccessible to enemies, and that Lord of men began to dwell there. Then that foremost of kings, Rama, was established in the kingdom. Thereafter, I asked a boon of the lotus-eyed Rama, saying, O slayer of foes, Rama, may I live as long as the history of thy deeds remaineth extant on earth. Thereupon he said, so be it. O repressor of foes, O Bhima, through the grace of Sita also, here all excellent objects of entertainment are supplied to me, whoever abide at this place. Rama reigned for the 1,100 years. Then he ascended to his own abode. Ever since, here Apsaras and Gandharvas delight me, singing for aye the deeds of that hero, O sinless one. O son of the Kurus, this path is impassable to mortals. For this, O Bharata, as also with the view that none might defeat or curse thee, have I obstructed thy passage to this path trod by the immortals. This is one of the paths to heaven, for the celestials, mortals cannot pass this way. But the lake in search of which thou hast come, lieth even in that direction. Thus ends the 147th section in the Tirthayatara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 148, Tirthayatara Parva continued. Vasampayana continued, thus addressed, the powerful Bhimsena of mighty arms, affectionately, and with a cheerful heart, bowed unto his brother, Hanuman, the monkey chief, and said in mild words, none is more fortunate than I am, now have I seen my elder brother. It is a great favor shown unto me, and I have been well pleased with thee. Now I wish that thou mayst fulfill this desire of mine. I desire to behold, O hero, that incomparable form of thine, which thou at that time hadst had, in bounding over the main, that abode of sharks and crocodiles. Thereby I shall be satisfied, and also believe in thy words. Thus addressed, that mighty monkey said with a smile, that form of mine neither thou nor any one else can behold. At that age, the state of things was different, and doth not exist at present. In the Krita age, the state of things was one, and in the Treta, another, and in the Dwapara, still another. Diminution is going on this age, and I have not that form now. The ground, rivers, plants, and rocks, and siddhas, gods, and celestial sages conform to time, in harmony with the state of things in the different yugas. Therefore, do not desire to see my former shape, O perpetuator of the Kuru race. I am conforming to the tendency of the age, verily, time is irresistible. Bhimsena said, tell me of the duration of the different yugas, and of the different manners and customs, and of virtue, pleasure and profit, and of acts, and energy, and of life and death in the different yugas. Thereupon Hanuman said, O child, that yuga is called Krita when the one eternal religion was extant. And in that best of yugas, every one had religious perfection, and, therefore, there was no need of religious acts. And then virtue knew no deterioration, nor did people decrease. It is for this that this age is called Krita, perfect. But in time the yuga had come to be considered as an inferior one. And, O child, in the Krita age, there were neither gods, nor demons, nor Gandharvas, nor Yakshas, nor Rakshasas, nor Nagas. And there was no buying and selling. And the Sana, the rich, and the Yajus did not exist. And there was no manual labor. And then the necessaries of life were obtained only by being thought of. And the only merit was in renouncing the world. And during that yuga, there was neither disease, nor decay of the senses. And there was neither malice, nor pride, nor hypocrisy, nor discord, nor ill will, nor cunning, nor fear, nor misery, nor envy, nor covetousness. And for this, that prime refuge of yogis, even the supreme Brahma, was attainable to all. And Narayana wearing a white hue was the soul of all creatures. And in the Krita Yuga, the distinctive characteristics of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and Sudras were natural, and these ever stuck to their respective duties. And then Brahma was the sole refuge, and their manners and customs were naturally adapted to the attainment of Brahma, and the objects of their knowledge was the sole Brahma, and all their acts also had reference to Brahma. In this way all the orders attained merit. And one uniform soul was the object of their meditation, and there was only one mantra, the Om, and there was one ordinance. And although of different characteristics, all of them followed a single Veda, and they had one religion. And according to the divisions of time, they led the four modes of life, without aiming at any object, and so they attained emancipation. The religion consisting in the identification of self with Brahma indicates the Krita Yuga. And in the Krita Yuga, the virtue of the four orders is throughout entire in fourfold measure. Such is the Krita Yuga devoid of the three qualities. Do thou also hear from me of the character of the Treta Yuga. In this age, sacrifices are introduced, and virtue decreaseth by a quarter. And Narayana, who is the soul of all creatures, assumeth a red color. And men practice truth, and devote themselves to religion and religious rites. And thence sacrifices and various religious observances come into existence. And in the Treta Yuga people begin to devise means for the attainment of an object, and they attain it through acts and gifts. And they never deviate from virtue, and they are devoted to asceticism and to the bestowal of gifts. And the four orders adhere to their respective duties, and perform rites. Such are the men of the Treta Yuga. In the Dwapara Yuga, religion decreaseth by one half, and Narayana weareth a yellow hue, and the Veda becometh divided into four parts. And then some men retain the knowledge of the four Vedas, and some of three Vedas, and some of one Veda, while others do not know even the rigs. And on the Shastras becoming thus divided, acts become multiplied. And largely influenced by passion, people engage in asceticism and gifts. And from their incapacity to study the entire Veda, it becomes divided into several parts. And in consequence of intellect having decreased, few are established in truth. And when people fall off from truth, they become subject to various diseases, and then lust and natural calamities ensue. And afflicted with these, people betake themselves to penances. And some celebrate sacrifices, desiring to enjoy the good things of life, or attain heaven. On the coming of the Dwapara Yuga, men become degenerate, in consequence of impiety. O son of Kunti, in the Kali Yuga a quarter only of virtue abideth. And in the beginning of this iron age, Narayana weareth a black hue, and the Vedas and the institutes, and virtue, and sacrifices, and religious observances, fall into disuse. And then reign iti, and disease, and lassitude, and anger and other deformities, and natural calamities, and anguish, and fear of scarcity. And as the yugas wane, virtue dwindles. And as virtue dwindles away, creatures degenerate. And as creatures degenerate, their natures undergo deterioration. And the religious acts performed at the waning of the yugas produce contrary effects. And even those that live for several yugas conform to these changes. O repressor of foes, as regards thy curiosity to know me, I say this: why should a wise person be eager to know a superfluous matter? Thus, O long-armed one, have I narrated in full what thou hadst asked me regarding the characteristics of the different yugas? Good happen to thee. Do thou return. Thus ends the 148th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 149, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Bhimsena said, "Without beholding thy former shape, I will never go away. If I have found favor with thee, do thou then show me thine own shape." Vasampayana continued, being thus addressed by Bhima. The monkey with a smile showed him that form of his in which he had bounded over the main. And wishing to gratify his brother, Hanuman assumed a gigantic body which both in length and breadth increased exceedingly. And that monkey of immeasurable effulgence stood there, covering the plantain grove furnished with trees, and elevating himself to the height reached by the Vindhya. And the monkey, having attained his lofty and gigantic body like unto a mountain, furnished with coppery eyes, and sharp teeth, and a face marked by frown, lay covering all sides, and lashing his long tail. And that son of the Kurus, Bhima, beholding that gigantic form of his brother, wondered, and the hairs of his body repeatedly stood on end. And beholding him like unto the sun in splendor, and unto a golden mountain, and also unto the blazing firmament, Bhima closed his eyes. Thereupon Hanuman addressed Bhima with a smile, saying, "O sinless one, thou art capable of beholding my size up to this extent. I can, however, go on swelling my size as long as I wish. And, O Bhima, amidst foes, my size increaseth exceedingly by its own energy." Vasampayana said, witnessing that dreadful and wonderful body of Hanuman, like unto the Vindhya mountain, the son of the wind god became bewildered. Then with his down standing erect, the noble-minded Bhima, joining his hands, replied unto Hanuman saying there, "O Lord, by me have been beheld the vast dimensions of thy body. Do thou now, O highly powerful one, decrease thyself by thy own power. Surely I cannot look at thee, like unto the sun risen, and of immeasurable power, and irrepressible, and resembling the mountain Minka. O hero, today this wonder of my heart is very great, that thou remaining by his side, Rama should have encountered Ravana personally. Depending on the strength of thy arms, thou wert capable of instantly destroying Lanka, with its warriors, and horses, elephants and chariots. Surely, O son of the wind god, there is nothing that is incapable of being achieved by thee, and in fight, Ravana together with his followers was no match for thee single-handed." Vasampayana continued, thus addressed by Bhima, "Hanuman, the chief of monkeys, answered in affectionate words uttered in solemn accents, O mighty armed one, O Bharata, it is even as thou sayest. O Bhimsena, that worst of Rakshasas was no match for me. But if I had slain Ravana, that thorn of the worlds, the glory of Raghu's son would have been obscured, and for this it is that I left him alone. By slaying that lord of the Rakshasas together with his followers, and bringing back Sita unto his own city, that hero hath established his fame among men. Now, O highly wise one, being intent on the welfare of thy brothers, and protected by the wind god, do thou go along a fortunate and auspicious way. O foremost of the Kurus, this way will lead thee to the Soigandhika wood. Proceeding in this direction, thou wilt behold the gardens of Kuvara, guarded by Yakshas and Rakshasas. Do thou not pluck the flowers there personally by thy own force, for the gods deserve regard specially from mortals. O best of the Bharata race, the gods confer their favor upon men, being propitiated by offerings, and homas, and reverential salutations, and recitation of mantras, and veneration, O Bharata. Do thou not, therefore, act with rashness, O child, and do thou not deviate from the duties of thy order. Sticking to the duties of thy order, do thou understand and follow the highest morality. Without knowing duties and serving the old, even persons like unto Vrihaspati cannot understand profit and religion. One should ascertain with discrimination those cases in which vice goeth under the name of virtue, and virtue goeth under the name of vice, cases in which people destitute of intelligence become perplexed. From religious observances proceedeth merit, and in merit are established the Vedas, and from the Vedas sacrifices come into existence, and by sacrifices are established the gods. The gods are maintained by the celebration of sacrifices prescribed by the Vedas and the religious ordinances, while men maintain themselves by following the ordinances of Vrihaspati and Usnas, and also by these avocations, by which the world is maintained, serving for wages, receiving taxes, merchandise, agriculture, and tending kin and sheep. The world subsisteth by profession. The study of the three Vedas and agriculture and trade and government constitutes, it is ordained by the wise, the professions of the twice-born ones, and each order maintaineth itself by following the profession prescribed for it. And when these callings are properly pursued, the world is maintained with ease. If, however, people do not righteously lead their lives, the world becomes lawless, in consequence of the want of Vedic merit and government. And if people do not resort to their prescribed vocations, they perish, but by regularly following the three professions, they bring about religion. The religion of the Brahmanas consisteth in the knowledge of the soul, and the hue of that order alone is universally the same. The celebration of sacrifices, and study and bestowal of gifts are well known to be the three duties common to all these orders. Officiating at sacrifices, teaching and the acceptance of gifts are the duties of a Brahmana. To rule the subjects is the duty of the Kshatriya, and to tend cattle, that of the Vaisya, while to serve the twice-born orders is said to be the duty of the Sudra. The Sudras cannot beg alms, or perform homas, or observe vows, and they must dwell in the habitation of their masters. Thy vocation, O son of Kunti, is that of the Kshatriya, which is to protect the subjects. Do thou carry out thy own duties, in an humble spirit, restraining thy senses. That king alone can govern, who taketh counsel of experienced men, and is helped by honest, intelligent and learned ministers, but a king who is addicted to vices, meeteth with defeat. Then only is the order of the world secured, when the king duly punisheth and conferreth favors. Therefore, it is necessary to ascertain through spies the nature of the hostile country, its fortified places and the allied force of the enemy, and their prosperity and decay, and the way in which they retain the adhesion of the powers they have drawn to their side. Spies are among the important auxiliaries of the king, and tact, diplomacy, prowess, chastisement, favor and cleverness lead to success. And success is to be attained through these, either in separation, or combined, namely, conciliation, gift, sowing dissensions, chastisement, and sight. And, O chief of the Bharatas, polity hath for its root diplomacy, and diplomacy also is the main qualification of spies. And polity, if well judged, conferreth success. Therefore, in matters of polity the counsels of Brahmanas should be resorted to. And in secret affairs, these should not be consulted, namely, a woman, a sot, a boy, a covetous person, a mean-minded individual, and he that betrayeth signs of insanity. Wise men only should be consulted, and affairs are to be dispatched through officers that are able. And polity must be executed through persons that are friendly, but dunces should in all affairs be excluded. In matters religious, pious men, and in matters of gain, wise men, and in guarding families, eunuchs, and in all crooked affairs, crooked men, must be employed. And the propriety or impropriety of the resolution of the enemy, as also their strength or weakness, must be ascertained through one's own as well as hostile spies. Favor should be shown to honest persons that have prudently sought protection, but lawless and disobedient individuals should be punished. And when the king justly punisheth and showeth favor, the dignity of the law is well maintained, O son of Pritha. Thus have I expounded unto thee the hard duties of kings difficult to comprehend. Do thou with equanimity observe these as prescribed for thy order. The Brahmanas attain heaven through merit, mortification of the senses, and sacrifice. The Vaisyas attain excellent state through gifts, hospitality, and religious acts. The Kshatriyas attain the celestial regions by protecting and chastising the subjects, uninfluenced by lust, malice, avarice and anger. If kings justly punish their subjects, they go to the place whither repair meritorious persons. Thus ends the 149th section in the Tirthayatara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 150, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, then contracting that huge body of his, which he had assumed at will, the monkey with his arms again embraced Bhimsena. And, O Bharata, on Bhima being embraced by his brother, his fatigue went off, and all the powers of body as also his strength were restored. And having gained great accession of strength, he thought that there was none equal to him in physical power, and with tears in his eyes, the monkey from affection again addressed Bhima in choked utterance, saying, O hero, repair to thy own abode. May I be incidentally remembered by thee in thy talk. O best of Kurus, do not tell anyone that I abide here. O thou of great strength, the most excellent of the wives of the gods and Gandharvs resort to this place, and the time of then arrival is nigh. My eyes have been blessed by seeing thee. And, O Bhima, having felt a human being by coming in contact with thee, I have been put in mind of that son of Raghu, who was Vishnu himself under the name of Rama, and who delighted the heart of the world, and who was as the sun in regard to the lotus face of Sita and also to that darkness Ravana. Therefore, O heroic son of Kunti, let not thy meeting with me be fruitless. Do thou with fraternal feeling ask of me a boon, O Bharata. If this be thy wish, that going to Varnavata, I may destroy the insignificant sons of Dhritarashtra, even this will I immediately do. Or if this be thy wish that city may be ground by me with rocks, or that I may bind Duryodhan and bring him before thee, even this will I do today, O thou of mighty strength. Vasampayana said, hearing those words of that high-souled one, Bhimsena with a cheerful heart answered Hanuman, saying, O foremost of monkeys, I take all this as already performed by thee. Good happen to thee, O mighty armed one. I ask of thee this, be thou well pleased with me. O powerful one, on thy having become our protector, the Pandavas have found help. Even by thy prowess shall we conquer all foes. Thus addressed, Hanuman said unto Bhimsena, from fraternal feeling and affection, I will do good unto thee, by diving into the army of thy foes copiously furnished with arrows and javelins. And, O highly powerful one, O hero, when thou shalt give leonine roars, then shall I with my own, add force to shouts. Remaining on the flagstaff of Arjuna's car will I emit fierce shouts that will damp the energy of thy foes. Thereby ye will slay them easily. Having said this unto Pandu's son, and also pointed him out the way, Hanuman vanished at that spot. Thus ends the 150th section in the Tirtha Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 151, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, when that foremost of monkeys had gone away, Bhima, the best of strong men, began to range the huge Gandhamdana along that path. And he went on, thinking of Hanuman's body and splendor unrivaled on earth, and also of the greatness and dignity of the Saratha's son. And proceeding in search of the place filled with lotuses of that kind, Bhima beheld romantic woods, and groves, and rivers, and lakes graced with trees bearing blossoms, and flowery woodlands variegated with various flowers. And, O Bharata, he beheld herds of mad elephants besmeared with mud, resembling masses of pouring clouds. And that graceful one went on with speed, beholding by the wayside woods wherein there stood with their mates deer of quick glances, holding the grass in their mouths. And fearless from prowess, Bhimsena, as if invited by the breeze-shaken trees of the forest ever fragrant with flowers, bearing delicate coppery twigs, plunged into the mountainous regions inhabited by buffaloes, bears and leopards. And on the way, he passed by lotus lakes haunted by maddened black bees, having romantic descents and woods, and on account of the presence of lotus buds, appearing as if they had joined their hands before Bhima. And having for his provisions on the journey the words of Draupadi, Bhima went on with speed, his mind and sight fixed on the blooming slopes of the mountain. And when the sun passed the meridian, he saw in the forest scattered over with deer, a mighty river filled with fresh golden lotuses. And being crowded with swans and karandavas, and graced with chakravakas, the river looked like a garland of fresh lotuses put on by the mountain. And in that river that one of great strength found the extensive assemblage of Saugandhika lotuses, effulgent as the rising sun, and delightful to behold. And beholding it, Pandu's son thought within himself that his object had been gained, and also mentally presented himself before his beloved worn out by exile. Thus ends the 151st section in the Tirthayatra Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 152, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, having reached that spot, Bhimsena saw in the vicinity of the Kailas cliff, that beautiful lotus lake surrounded by lovely woods, and guarded by the Rakshasas. And it sprang from the cascades contiguous to the abode of Kuvara. And it was beautiful to behold, and was furnished with a wide-spreading shade, and abounded in various trees and creepers, and was covered with green lilies. And this unearthly lake was filled with golden lotuses, and swarmed with divers species of birds. And its banks were beautiful and devoid of mud. And situated on the rocky elevation, this expanse of excellent water was exceedingly fair. And it was the wonder of the world, and healthful and of romantic sight. In that lake the son of Kunti saw the water of ambrosial taste, and cool and light and clear and fresh, and the Pandav drank of it profusely. And that unearthly receptacle of waters was covered with celestial Saugandhika lotuses, and was also spread over with beautiful variegated golden lotuses of excellent fragrance having graceful stalks of lapis lazulis. And swayed by swans and karandavas, these lotuses were scattering fresh farina. And this lake was the sporting region of the high-souled Kuvara, the king of the Yakshas. And it was held in high regard by the Gandharvas, the Apsaras, and the celestials. And it was frequented by the celestial sages, and the Yakshas, and the Kimpurushas, and the Rakshasas, and the Kinnaras, and it was well protected by Kuvara. And as soon as he beheld that river, and that unearthly lake, Kunti's son, Bhimsena of mighty strength, became exceedingly delighted. And agreeably to the mandate of their king, hundreds and thousands of Rakshasas, named Krudvasas, were guarding that lake, wearing uniforms and armed with various weapons. And as that represser of foes, Kunti's son, the heroic Bhima of dreadful prowess, clad in deerskins and wearing golden armlets and equipped with weapons and girding his sword on, was fearlessly proceeding, with the view of gathering the lotus, those Rakshasas saw him and immediately began to address each other, shouting forth, "It behoveth you to inquire for the errand on which this foremost of men, clad in deerskins, and equipped with arms, hath come." Then they all approached the effulgent Vrikodra of mighty arms and asked, "Who art thou? Thou shouldst answer our questions. We see thee in the guise of an ascetic and yet armed with weapons. O thou of mighty intelligence, do thou unfold unto us the object with which thou hast come hither." Thus ends the 152nd section in the Tirthaltara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 153, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Bhima said, "I am the son of Pandu, and next by birth to Yudhishthira the Just, and my name is Bhimsena. O Rakshasas, I have come with my brothers to the Jujube named Visala." At that place, Panchali saw an excellent Soigandhika lotus, which, of a certainty, was carried thither by the wind from this region. She wished to have those flowers in abundance. Know ye, Rakshasas, that I am engaged in fulfilling the desire of my wedded wife of faultless features, and have come hither to procure the flowers. Thereat the Rakshasas said, "O foremost of men, this spot is dear unto Kuvara, and it is his sporting region. Men subject to death cannot sport here. O Vrikodra, the celestial sages, and the gods taking the permission of the chief of the Yakshas, drink of this lake, and sport herein. And, O Pandav, the Gandharvas and the Apsaras also divert themselves in this lake. In regard to a thing of such a nature, who goeth to beseech another? In regard to a thing of such a nature, who goeth to beseech another?" Vasampayana said, having said this unto the Rakshasas, the mighty armed and exceedingly unforbearing Bhimsena of great strength plunged into the lotus lake. Thereat that powerful one was forbidden by the Rakshasas, saying, "Do not do this," and they from all sides began to abuse him in anger. But slighting these Rakshasas, that mighty one of dreadful prowess plunged farther and farther. Now they all prepared for opposing him. And with eyes rolling, they upraised their arms, and rushed in wrath at Bhimsena, exclaiming, "Seize him! Bind him! Hew him! We shall cook Bhimsena, and eat him up." Thereupon that one of great force, taking his ponderous and mighty make inlaid with golden plates, like unto the make of Yam himself, turned towards those, and then said, "Stay." At this, they darted at him with vehemence, brandishing lances, and axes, and other weapons. And wishing to destroy Bhima, the dreadful and fierce Krudvasas surround Bhima on all sides. But that one, being endued with strength, had been begotten by Vayu in the womb of Kunti, and he was heroic and energetic, and the slayer of foes, and ever devoted to virtue and truth, and incapable of being vanquished by enemies through prowess. Accordingly this high-souled Bhima, defeating all the maneuvers of the foes, and breaking their arms, killed on the banks of the lake more than 100, commencing with the foremost, and then witnessing his prowess and strength, and the force of his skill, and also the might of his arms, and unable to bear the onset, those prime heroes all of a sudden fled on all sides in bands. Beaten and pierced by Bhimsena, those Krudvasas quitted the field of battle, and in confusion quickly fled towards the Kailas cliff, supporting themselves in the sky. Having thus by the exercise of his prowess defeated those hosts, even as Sakra had defeated the armies of Daityas and Danvas, he, Bhima, now that he had conquered the enemy, plunged into the lake and began to gather the lotuses, with the object of gaining his purpose. And as he drank of the waters, like unto nectar, his energy and strength were again fully restored, and he fell to plucking and gathering Soigandhika lotuses of excellent fragrance. On the other hand, the Krudvasas, being driven by the might of Bhima and exceedingly terrified, presented themselves before the Lord of Wealth, and gave an exact account of Bhima's prowess and strength in fight. Hearing their words, the god, Kuvara, smiled and then said, "Let Bhima take for Krishna as many lotuses as he likes. This is already known to me." Thereupon taking the permission of the Lord of Wealth, those Rakshasas renouncing anger, went to that foremost of the Kurus, and in that lotus lake beheld Bhima alone, disporting in delight. Thus ends the 153rd section in the Tirthayatara Parva of the Vana Parva. Section 154, Tirthayatra Parva continued. Vasampayana said, "Then, O best of the Bharatas, Bhima began to collect those rare unearthly, variegated and fresh flowers in abundance. And it came to pass that a high and violent wind, piercing to the touch, and blowing about gravels, arose, portending battle. And frightful meteors began to shoot, with thundering sounds. And being enveloped by darkness, the sun became pale, his rays being obscured. And on Bhima displaying his prowess, dreadful sounds of explosion rung through the sky. And the earth began to tremble, and dust fell in showers. And the points of the heavens became reddened, and beasts and birds began to cry in shrill tones. And everything became enveloped in darkness, and nothing could be distinguished. And other evil omens besides these appeared there. Witnessing these strange phenomena, Dharma's son Yudhishthira, the foremost of speakers, said, "Who is it that will overcome us? Ye Pandavas who take delight in battle, good betide you. Do ye equip yourselves. From what I see, I inferred that the time for the display of our prowess hath drawn nigh." Having said this, the king looked around. Then not finding Bhima, that repressor of foes, Dharma's son, Yudhishthira, inquired of Krishna and the twins standing near regarding his brother, Bhima, the doer of dreadful deeds in battle, saying, "O Panchali, is Bhima intent upon performing some great feat, or hath that one delighting in daring deeds already achieved some brave deed, portending some great danger?" These omens have appeared all around, indicating a fearful battle. When Yudhishthira said this, his beloved queen, the high-minded Krishna of sweet smiles, answered him, in order to remove his anxiety, "O king, that Soigandhika lotus which today had been brought by the wind, had out of love, duly shown unto Bhimsena, and I had also said unto that hero, if thou canst find many of this species, procuring even all of them, do thou return speedily, O Pandav, that mighty armed one, with the view of gratifying my desire, may have gone towards the northeast to bring them." Having heard these words of hers, The king said unto twins, let us together follow the path taken by Vrikodra. Let the Rakshasas carry those Brahmanas that are fatigued and weak. O Gatotkacha, O thou like unto a celestial, do thou carry Krishna. I am convinced, and it is plain, that Bhima hath dived into the forest, for it is long since he hath gone, and in speed he resembleth the wind, and in clearing over the ground, he is swift like unto Vinta's son, and he will ever leap into the sky, and alight at his will. O Rakshasas, we shall follow him through your prowess. He will not at first do any wrong to the Siddhas versed in the Vedas. O best of the Bharatas, saying, so be it. Other Rakshasas who knew the quarter where the lotus lake of Kuvara was situated, started cheerfully with Lomesa, bearing the Pandavas, and many of the Brahmanas. Having shortly reached that spot, they saw that romantic lake covered with Soygandhika and other lotuses and surrounded by beautiful woods. And on its shores they beheld the high-souled and vehement Bhima, as also the slaughtered yakshas of large eyes, with their bodies, eyes, arms and thighs smashed, and their heads crushed. And on seeing the high-souled Bhima, standing on the shore of that lake in an angry mood, and with steadfast eyes, and biting his lip, and stationed on the shore of the lake with his make upraised by his two hands, like unto Yam with his make in his hand at the time of the universal dissolution, Yudhishthira the just, embraced him again and again, and said in sweet words, O Kaunteya, what hast thou done? Good betide thee. If thou wishest to do good unto me, thou shouldst never again commit such a rash act, nor offend the gods. Having thus instructed the son of Kunti, and taken the flowers, those godlike ones began to sport in that very lake. At this instant, the huge-bodied warders of the gardens, equipped with rocks for weapons, presented themselves at the spot. And seeing Yudhishthira the just, and the great sage Lomisa and Nakula and Sahdeva and also the other foremost of Brahmanas, they all bowed themselves down in humility. And being pacified by Yudhishthira the just, the Rakshasas became satisfied. And with the knowledge of Kuvara, those foremost of Kurus for a short time dwelt pleasantly at that spot on the slopes of the Gandhamdana, expecting Arjuna. Thus ends the 154th section in the Tirthaitara Parva of the Vana Parva. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.